Got our cameras going?
Yep.
All right. Hey, welcome. This is Genesee County Compassion Club Show. Coming to you live from FlintTalkRadio.com, broadcasting you on Ustream. Got John in the studio with me. John's the man making it happen here at Flint Talk Radio. Hey, we got information for you about Michigan's medical marijuana scene. Also let you know what's going around the country and the world with medical marijuana. And let you know what's going on with the Genesee County Compassion Club. How's it going today, guys? Man, it's beautiful outside. This is the end of summer for sure. And if you are not out there enjoying it today, you're missing out because it's one of the last beautiful days, I think. It's absolutely gorgeous. But nevertheless, we're going to be here with you for a little while today on the inside. And if you have questions, feel free to call into the show. We got the number there for you right on the screen, 810-208-1854. If you want to talk about medical marijuana, maybe you want to tell me what your favorite strain is, whatever's on your mind, give us a ring, let us know. We're glad to hear from you. All right, on the docket for the day, we've got some things going down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. We just had the softball game last weekend, and this weekend we've got something more important and just as fun. It's the Adopt a Highway. We're going to be cleaning up our two sections that we always do on M13 and Dort Highway. And we're going to be doing it this Saturday. So meet us at the club, 10 a.m. if you can. Get out there, we'll get dirty, and then we'll come back and eat something when we're done. But it takes a couple hours. It's not too bad. The more, the merrier. So we could definitely use your hands, use your help. And, you know, this is usually the best one of the year. The weather's gorgeous. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. And, you know, it's already been cleaned up twice, so it's not too difficult of a job. And if you haven't gone before, this is probably the best one to get out to. So definitely encourage you, if you can, show up, be there Saturday. This is the third Michigan Adopt a Highway that we're doing this year, and we're glad to be a part of it. So we'll get those areas cleaned up. And kudos to everyone who's already been out there twice this year. Definitely appreciate all your help. And we'll look forward to hopefully having you guys out there one more time. So this Saturday, don't forget, that's coming up here. Next event coming up after that, it's a little ways off in the future yet, but it's only about a month away. We've got the October 18th G3C annual chili cook-off, and along with that, we're going to be doing a cannabis cup. So get your chilies ready, get your beans ready, and get your buds ready. So we want to see what you've got. We'll be doing different categories, and we're going to ask that you guys enter in your materials for the cup the week prior to the event, so that way we have time to test it. Yes, we're actually going to use real testing results on this contest, and figure out who's who in medical marijuana. So mark that down, October 18th. That is the chili cook-off. We'll be doing a contest for that as well. We've got traditional, non-traditional forms of chili. You guys are you know, the Food Network champions out there. You can wrestle up your favorite recipes. Do whatever you do with your chilies. Bring them in and let us check them out. We'll be judging for that. And, you know, for all you club members out there that aren't cooks, the 18th is an awesome day to show up because you pay $5. I think that's typically what we charge to enter. And you get to be a judge. And then you get to taste all the different chilies. It's awesome. So, anyways, come on in. Make sure you mark that down. October 18th at the Genesee County Compassion Club. It's going to be a fun day. Like I said, we got the contest going on. It's going to be huge. Going to be handing out cups for you know, the winners of the contest, of course, and then we're also having our chili contest on top of that. So it looks to be a killer event, and it should be a lot of fun. It's our second annual chili cook-off. So, and I know last year, man, there were some recipes that were just outstanding, and you know, and it doesn't take a lot to please me. I mean, when it comes to chili, you know, the old hobo chili works for me fine. You know, the Fritos in a bag and a cup of Hormel chili. I'm not picky. But these recipes here are putting that to shame. I mean, they're just the homemade. People bring out their own beans from their garden and their peppers they've been growing all summer. It's just an awesome thing. And we've got some magnificent cooks in the club that are always out there surprising us with their talents and abilities. Man, I'm looking forward to it. I just ate lunch, but I'm hungry again already thinking about all this chili. John, are you a chili fan back there?
Yeah, I am actually, especially in the fall and the winter.
Yeah,
I really like it. It's like matter of fact, I already got like the burn going on there just thinking about it. But
yeah.
I wish I could go to that. I mean, someday, this is something we probably should talk to you about. Maybe you guys should have that event, another event like that, another chili cook-off. that you can bring the general public in.
Oh yeah.
That'd be a huge. I think that'd be a huge thing where you could foster new relationships, for the community. So maybe it's something you might think about.
Maybe next year we'll have to throw it open and let the public in
Make it
on that too.
much bigger, because I have never heard something like that going on in Genesee County.
Really?
Yeah, I've never heard of anything like that. And if you have you get in a big enough place, you can always use it for. Maybe this is unfair to do that. So forgive me. I don't. This is not the plans of the Compassion Club, but use that as a means to make money for a charity of your choice.
Oh yeah.
And for maybe to a $10 donation, or maybe some canned goods or something like that.
It's a good idea, John.
Yeah, and I mean that around the fall of the year as well. That would be a good idea.
That is a good idea. Well, for this year, we're doing it the old school way. Maybe next year we'll throw it open. But I didn't realize that there wasn't any other chili cook-offs around the area.
Not that I'm aware of. They might have something going on down at the New Farmers Market, because they have a kitchen facility down there.
Sure.
And it's sponsored by one of the banks or something like that, or one of the credit unions.
Okay.
And so that might be something they want to look at. But I mean, you might want to see if work with them.
Who knows?
That'd be a big event. I know that would be. They have a good barbecue, competition.
Yeah, they do have the barbecue competition.
And so you maybe could have something set up like that just in the fall of the year.
Maybe so. I tell you, the chilies that we had last year, I thought were amazing. I was really, really impressed by some of the recipes there, flavors and stuff that I didn't expect. So it was pretty cool. All right, mark that down. October 18th, we're gonna cook it up. And we're going to also find out who's got the best buds, too. That's good information. All right, so that's about it for the events. Speaking of charities, John, we were just doing a softball tournament here earlier this week. The club participated in, and that was a charity benefit for cancer research. And I know that we were able to help out. The club was able to help out with that benefit. So kudos to our club members for being a part of that as well. Even if you weren't playing, you were still helping out, even though you didn't know it. So that's pretty cool. We were able to make a little donation to them. So kudos, club members, always helping out. And, that's what the club's all about. It's helping out. All right. Hey, I got some news for you. Let you know what's happening around the world with cannabis. It's been a busy summer, busy year, of course. There's lots of stuff in the news. And there's a few stories that I wanted to share with you. This one here is from tokeofthetown.com. You guys can check this out for yourself if you want to get more info on it. But a little story that I thought was interesting. You guys are well aware that out in Colorado they have the recreational marijuana. They've had medical marijuana for quite some time. This last month, was actually the first month where recreational sales of marijuana exceeded the medicinal sales of marijuana in Colorado. That's kind of interesting. I would have thought that happened right away, but apparently it didn't. It took a little bit for that clientele on the recreational side to eclipse the already existing medicinal side. So anyways, little side note there, but the reason I brought the story up was because that despite the recreational being available, there are still medicinal providers out there in Colorado, not just dispensaries and so forth, but also individual caregivers. And in Colorado, they had a system set up that was similar to Michigan's in that they could have 5 patients. Individual caregiver out there could have 5 patients. They also had on top of that an additional program, or not program, but an additional side guideline, if you will, that stated if a caregiver needed to help out more than his designated 5 patients, he could in fact get a waiver and assist additional patients as well. Now, there was only 4 people in the state who were ever awarded this additional waiver, so it's not like it's a widespread thing. Most of the caregivers out there still have their 5 patients or less. There was only a few cases, but these individual cases, these select few people who were able to acquire a waiver and help out more than 5 people, these folks here were in jeopardy of losing that ability. So with the new programs and new recreational being rolled out, Colorado was looking at streamlining down their medicinal program, and in the process of that, we're going to eliminate the ability to have these caregivers who could service more than 5 people. Now again, there's only 4 of them, so it's not like it's an epidemic problem. I'm not sure why the legislature was even considering making changes in the medicinal program. However, it looks like they're backpedaling on that decision. They're saying now that, well, wait a minute, maybe that wasn't the best idea to limit these caregivers, because what they're finding out is that these caregivers here, who there's only 4 of them, these caregivers who are helping out more than 5 people were producing a very specific product for very specific individual ailments, specifically those who were seeking out the Charlotte's Web oil, or high CBD strains as we are known. These folks are producing it directly into oil to be administered to children. So a very specific market niche there, someone who is out there doing it. Obviously the children are not going to be able to produce this for themselves, and in these cases the parents didn't want to do it either, or guardians didn't want to do it. So at any rate, these caregivers are out there producing the specific product, providing a service, and to eliminate that ability and say, hey, well, you can't service more than 5 people, these kids are going to get cut out. They wouldn't be able to get the medicine any longer. There wouldn't be anyone there to provide for them. And so it looks like the officials out there are going to roll back potentially on that and allow these people to continue providing to their patients. So kind of interesting there. I mean, it's the board that was considering it. They heard from a number of different people, constituents in their area. Some of them were, the caregivers themselves. Some of them were the parents who were concerned about their children being able to still get their medicine. And it's good that they were taking time to listen to it. And they're saying, the story goes, the patients aren't completely out of the water yet. The ruling said that the parents of the children can be caregivers, and past rulings have said caregivers can designate caregivers. We have the same thing here in Michigan, where if you have a child who is being recommended medical marijuana by their physician, they have to have a secondary physician recommend it, and then their parent or guardian has to be their caregiver. That's what the law says. But in some cases, that parent or guardian doesn't want to be the actual provider. They don't have the ability to have a garden, so on and so forth. So they have to elect a caregiver for themselves. So same thing out there in Colorado, same situation here in Michigan, and it's definitely something that has to be considered. We have conflicting views on how our law here in Michigan works, and I think when you take that situation into account and look at how it has to work, you have to realize that caregivers must have the ability to be able to transfer to other caregivers. I mean, the law is specifically set up, was written for that purpose, and you can see how it's also implied through the construction of the law when it comes to dealing with the minors. This is also the same thing out in Colorado that was going on here, and in Colorado they were able to solve that issue by allowing certain caregivers to have the ability to have more than 5 patients. And and again, it's a very select situation. It's not something that was being abused by any means, and these caregivers are out there providing a very select service within the medical marijuana industry to a very select group of patients. And I think it's important because this law was passed not just here in Michigan but also in Colorado for the treatment and for the compassion for patients to make sure that they're getting what they need. So kind of cool story there. I'm glad they were able to look at it from a different point of view. And it's interesting to see those struggles continuing to go on in a state that has recreational marijuana available. You'd think, well, shouldn't they be able to go get it wherever, whenever they want? And it's not as available as people think, especially the high CBD treatments that a lot of these parents of epileptic children suffering from MS, are looking for. They're looking for a very specific treatment. So, all right, moving on here. There's some other stories I want to share with you. First off here, this is Illinois, our neighbors to the south. They did approve a medical marijuana program. We talked about that earlier this year on the program here on Flint Talk Radio. And as the program is getting implemented, it's working through its issues. What's currently going on is that they're looking at awarding a lottery for dispensaries, if you will, or producers. So they just kind of have everybody throw their applications in a pile and then pull them out and see who's going to get a license. The backpedaling on here is that there's people in the Illinois government that are saying, well, hey, wait a minute, maybe we should only give licenses to the most qualified or the people that can afford to pay the most fees, getting a little bit more milk out of the cow, if you will. And so this is kind of interesting. I mean, a lottery seems a little bit more fair if you're going to actually limit. Certainly the people need to be qualified to be able to be considered. But outside of that, no, I don't think it should be going to the highest bidder. I know that a lot of business in this country works that way, but I think we need to have some fairness in our administration as well. So, all right, same thing going on here actually in Florida. This is kind of interesting. Now, Florida has medical marijuana on the ballot. The voters down there going to be choosing whether or not to pass medical marijuana in Florida this year. However, they've already approved a CBD-only bill in Florida, and on top of that, they are doing a similar thing where they're going to award through a lottery certain licenses so people could produce this CBD-only type marijuana and product. Now, again, folks are stepping in and saying, hey, wait a minute. And in fact, this time there's a lawsuit being thrown out there to say, well, no, the lottery system shouldn't be going on. It should be replaced with a rigorous testing, if you will, a rigorous merit-based approach, as they like to call it. And I think that's kind of interesting, merit-based. Money-based, if they just want to be honest. Really, that's what it's getting into all about, is that, when they're giving out, the government is giving out limited licensing for this limited product, people are getting in there and saying, well, hey, it should go to the highest bidder. And I think it should be going to the people that are qualified, and then it should be done in a fair process.
Could you imagine this? Somebody gets that gets pushed through and allowed. People are allowed to grow marijuana down there for the medicinal uses. They would have a good advantage there with having outdoor grow operations. Because the climate's almost perfect for that, wouldn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, except for the humidity might be a little too high in some areas, but
yep. A lot of your southern states, you certainly would have outdoor production. You can have that here in Michigan as well. But I think for the most part, it's more about who's going to be able to grow the marijuana. Is it going to be the patient being able to provide it for themselves, which I think should always be allowed. However, it's oftentimes not. And then if you're going to award out licenses to producers or dispensaries, how do you go about doing that? How do you make sure it's fair? If everyone can afford the fee and everybody can meet the requirements, so let's say you've got 100 different applications, everybody's qualified. How do you go and pick out if you're only going to allow 25 in a non-biased manner? That's a difficult job for anybody to do. I think the process has to be set up that is going to eliminate out those types of bribery schemes that everybody's worried about, so on and so forth. I think the big issue is that you got to look at how the state's making their decisions. What is the process behind this selection? And the voters, they deserve a right to know. It shouldn't all be closed door, closed fist behind the counter there. This is something that I think people need to have access to, number one, and I think that's why patients should be able to provide it for themselves. But number two, I think it needs to be fair. And this is definitely a growing industry, and by the government limiting its growth, obviously it's going to put a deterrence on the growth of the industry. But I think that you have to look at the benefits for the entire population, not just a select few. And this is one of the things in our country that we continue to fight against through regulation and so on and so forth, that makes the deciding factors on who's going to get rich, or are we going to spread the wealth out, and what philosophy is best. It's a tough decision for a lot of people to be able to button down on. So anyways, if these licenses do get approved out there in Florida, and let's say the law goes through in November, these licenses could be worth a lot of money, because now they won't be producing just CBD products. They'd be able to produce any type of marijuana product and still have the sole licensing ability. So it's kind of a government created monopoly, if you will, but I don't think that should exist. I think we should have a free market. But then again, who's idealistic on this?
What is the state? The state there, like in Florida, of the state of the politicians. One time I heard it was a pretty corrupt state. There's a lot of payola, cronyism, good old boy network.
John, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I would say that's probably the case for most politics, wouldn't you?
Well, I'd say in Genesee County and this area and the state of Michigan, yeah, I think it's definitely. It's entrenched. It's been part of that for the past 60, 70 years. I'm aware of.
Even if you just watch mainstream media, you're going to see that that's a reoccurring story across the country of government corruption, so on and so forth, whether it be at a local level or a state or federal level. It seems to be going on everywhere. And when we continue as a public to give power to government to say who's going to be able to be in business or not, bribery is something that's going to go right along with that. You have to look at that. You got to look at the past, look at the present. Those that continues to create that issue, it's something that is it just goes right along with it. I mean, if you've got the power to be able to say who's going to win, certainly people are going to be paying you to make that decision in their favor. I mean, should it happen? No, absolutely not. It should be fair. Politicians, people in power should be unbiased. They should be looking out for the good of all the people, not just a select few. But it doesn't happen. That's just not something that.
Yeah, the thing is, we accept that. We accept that. We accept that. That's
the
on
damning
us.
thing right there. You're right, and that's exactly it. So when you go to the polls and it's time to vote, number one, you need to go vote. But number two, think about the selections you're making. If so and so on there on that ticket has been advertised, on your TV, and you're getting ads constantly about this person and that, who's paying for that? Somebody is, and those people are the ones that are going to make the decisions for you in the end. And I think that if we don't change up this mentality as a public and start really looking at how government operates and then taking that information to the polls with us, we're not going to see a change. I mean, we're going to continue. It's just like right now, we got a state senate race going on. You got Terry Lynn Land on one side and what's Gary Peters on the other. Well, are there other people who are running for that position? Other people who don't have millions of dollars in their advertising campaign? Do they even have a shot if they are running? And that's the thing. We don't know. We're not trained to go out and look for that information, and most of us don't care enough to do so.
With the rise of social media such as Facebook, internet, like Twitter, it seems like this would, those would give you opportunity to be the underdog, to actually have a shot. But it seems again that they're set up for people who are willing. They got the war chest to pay off to get all these ads splashed on these social media networks as well. So I mean, that's why I have hope that there's going to eventually be undoing of the way things have been done. For the past how many years. But then again, if you look at American history, I mean, it was never a clean bill either. I mean, clean slate. If you watch the news looked at the history. It was pretty bitter from the start, from this country's founding. You got pretty dirty pretty quick.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on from there. We don't want to get too down in the dumps. We know that politicians are corrupt. That's just the way it goes. Let's look at some place that's getting it right. In order to do that, we got to jump across the pond and look at Italy. Go figure, Italy. Italy has actually had medical marijuana for a couple decades now. I didn't know that. And now they're even going a step further with drug policy reform, and they're looking at potentially releasing up to 10,000 inmates who are currently being incarcerated under outdated pot laws. So this is kind of interesting. It's one of the first nations to really, big nations anyways, to step up and impose more sensible drug reform. They're looking at also, in addition to releasing these prisoners who are really shouldn't be imprisoned, they're looking at taking their troops and putting them to work in cannabis fields, actually cultivating medicine for patients. Can you imagine that? I mean, the troops out there actually growing weed? That's kind of interesting. Actually using the Italian army to grow medical marijuana. I don't know if I want our soldiers out there growing here in the United States. I don't think that should be their job. But, it's a different way of doing things, and I think it's something that we got to look at. The big thing is, medicinal cannabis in Italy, while it's been legal, there's been no private cultivation allowed. So the majority of people out there in Italy that are utilizing medical marijuana are doing so in the form of pharmaceutical drugs like Sativex and Marinol. So they're not really getting the full entourage effect. They're certainly not getting the plant in its full form. And on top of that, they're getting nailed with big cost. Monthly prescription for something like that runs about $900 for a 1 month supply. So extremely expensive way of treating yourself, especially in relation to just simply providing it for yourself. And so that's why the program, a lot of people, you don't hear a lot about medical marijuana in Italy because all in all, it's really done through pharmaceuticals. But if the Italian government does make this change, then like I said, their soldiers would actually be part of a program that would help cultivate medical marijuana and then make it more readily available to the population there in Italy. And I think doing that on the backs, in addition with making a change in their incarceration, that's huge. I mean, that's some really big forward thinking by a government. So I'd say kudos to Italy. That's pretty cool. And they were saying a lot more people are looking to get medical marijuana, but not through the pharmaceutical type avenue. They're looking for other types of treatment. So it's kind of neat. All right, a couple other stories I want to share with you. This one here, this is from Chile. So that's the little tiny country in South America, down there by Argentina. Excuse me. This is a cool story. Chile's government has approved the country's first marijuana farm, which will grow cannabis for medical research and development. The division of the Chilean Ministry of Agriculture issued the country's first license to cultivate cannabis for medicinal purposes, and it will be used to produce an oil-based extract for trials involving cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy and patients with epilepsy. So that's pretty cool. They'll be cultivated at a secret location outside the country's capital. And since cannabis is illegal in Chile, the seeds got to be imported, of course, before it can begin. So it says here the first trials will involve 200 patients with cancer and epilepsy who will be given the treatment for free, and that the trials are expected to begin April 2015. This is pretty awesome. So, and I think on top of it being awesome that the Chilean government's actually getting involved in this, I think it goes to further prove that the evidence that we're already seeing out there. A lot of people that are in medical marijuana have heard of RSO or Rick Simpson oil. This is something that a lot of folks out there are using to treat a lot of different symptoms like cancer and epilepsy. And a lot of people at first when they hear about this stuff, they pass it off. This is some type of snake oil. It's just baloney, and there's no way that this is the cure for cancer. And then there's other people out there that are saying this is absolutely the cure for cancer, multitudes of different cancers or other types of ailments on top of that. And so I think that there may be truth in that, is what I'm saying. I mean, if you've got the Chilean government stepping up and saying, hey, we're going to grow marijuana for the specific purpose of processing it into oil. Well, there's only one kind of oil, and that's what we're talking about here. So maybe there is some proof to that. And, we've seen other studies, quite numerous in fact, by a variety of different institutions out there that are all pointing that marijuana is a cure for cancer. So this is awesome. I think, maybe in the next 10, 15 years, you're going to see cancer treatment revolving around cannabis. And it's something that's starting to break through. And I think when you see more respected institutions, kind of like the Chilean government, if you will, come up with programs and maybe start to reveal more information, so on and so forth, it's going to be exciting to see that. But for all those people in the meantime that are suffering from these ailments, you can do this. You can make this stuff at your own home. You can grow it on your own. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Rather than seeking out other types of treatment, maybe you want to seek that in addition to it. I don't know. It's up to you what you want to do, but it's something worth looking into. Rick Simpson oil is what I'm talking about, and really what that is, it's a concentrated version of the plant. I mean, you're taking the trichomes, the resin that's been produced from that plant, you're stripping it off using a solvent, and then basically ridding the remaining material of the solvent so that you're left with just your concentrate. And this is amazing information. Seeing people get cured of diseases that they thought they were going to die from a plant that's currently being prohibited by the federal government. That's amazing to think that that's a potential cure right there, and it's just being hidden from us, even though some people out there knew. Some people knew. So, all right, kudos to Chile. I've always wanted to go to Chile. It just sounds like a cool place. I'm talking a lot about Chile today.
There's there used to be a Middle Eastern place here in Flint that actually started out being a Chilean food place. Anna's Kitchen. She was an Arab. She was an Arabic woman, but their family immigrated to Chile, and she started offering. It didn't go over well, so they transformed to a Middle Eastern place. And but it was like the food I thought was interesting. The Chilean food. I mean,
I'd like to try it, but I know nothing about it. You know what I mean?
They grow a lot of vegetables there, and a lot of fruit comes from Chile. Like a lot of grapes come from Chile now.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like it's definitely got a good agricultural base, so it's probably a good fit.
Like as far as their food goes and ethnicity, culture and whatnot, I'm really unfamiliar. Other than
there's a lot of
mountains.
There's a lot of Lebanese and Syrians and stuff in Chile, from my understanding. Yeah,
I think that's the case actually in quite a bit of South America.
Yeah, quite a bit of them. Yeah.
All right, one more story I wanted to share with you guys this week, and actually this one here is from Michigan, so it's kind of cool. But the story itself, I'm not so. I wish I didn't have to share it with you. This is about a patient who was busted with 200 plants. So unfortunately, the guy was over his limit. The thing that got him in trouble was the fact that his 6-year-old kindergarten attending daughter went to school smelling like a skunk. And unfortunately, the teacher, the principal, got involved and called the police. And the girl actually testified. She told the cops that dad was growing marijuana in the basement and had told her not to tell anybody. So probably not the best way of dealing with things there with your kids. At any rate, 5 days later, the cops showed up at the residence, found 200 plants, and the attorney for the gentleman is saying that, hey, this was totally unconstitutional because the search was not issued in a proper manner. So we'll see how this case plays out. It seems to be going up the ladder, if you will. It says here it's being moved to a U.S. District Court in Marquette, Michigan, and the first pre-trial hearing is scheduled for the first week of October. So nothing definitive yet on how this is going to go, whether or not the warrant was legit. They're saying here that just the smell is not enough to issue a warrant. So we'll see how that goes. Any rate, obviously, the gentleman shouldn't have been over his plant count. I don't know what he was eligible to have, whether it was 72, maybe there was 2 caregivers in the vicinity. I don't know what the story was, but it doesn't look good being that he had 200 plants, obviously. And I think the other thing here that we got to look at, it's an unfortunate incident, what happened, especially being that it was his child at school, so on and so forth. When there's kids in the home, you got to have an extra precaution about what you're doing, but I think you also have to have a conversation with your children. They're going to be going to school, they're going to be learning about drugs and so on and so forth, whether you like it or not. And I think it's a matter of dealing with it properly with your children. If you're growing marijuana or if you're consuming it, it's for medicinal purposes. If you're doing it legally here in Michigan. And I think that when we talk about it correctly, we talk about it as medicine, and we treat it as medicine, then I think our children are going to see that. It's not alarming to a child if you're a parent and you go to the medicine cabinet and pull out a jar of pills, take a couple, and put them back. And they look at you and they say, well, what's that for? You say, well, I'm not feeling so good. This is going to help me feel better. It's taken for granted we have these conversations, and Junior looks up or Little Miss looks up and says, okay, and goes on with their day. Maybe they're a little bit more inquisitive. Maybe they have a few more questions. Well, what's it made out of? What's it do? What's it make you feel like? So on and so forth. All natural things that children are going to wonder about. And your response, if you're using a prescription medication or even an over-the-counter drug, is also going to be natural. And I think that when you're using medical marijuana, you might get tripped up because of the previous mentality that you were in. And I think you have to change your mentality, not just for yourself, but for the people around you, and deal with it like a medicine. Deal with it as it is, which it is medicine. And I think if you do so, your talk, the way about you, the way that you administer the medication, the way that you treat it, it's going to be different than someone who's using it for recreational purposes. The candor about you, so on and so forth. And I think that maybe this gentleman might have had a different experience if he had a proper talk with his children about it. Just telling them, hey, I've got something here and I don't want you to talk about it. Well, come on. If you've been around children at all and you want them to say something, probably the first thing you should say is, don't say this, right? Most kids are going to go out and do the opposite of what you tell them. And in this case here, that's what happened. The child was just being honest when they got asked, well, what's going on? Why do you smell like a skunk? Oh, well, here we go. But if that child had been taught differently, maybe we'd have a different situation. Who knows? I don't want to place judgment on the family. Lord knows it's going through a rough time right now. Definitely wish them all the best. It's unfortunate, the plant count being what it was. I don't know any more details other than what I'm reading to you from here. But, I never like seeing anybody go through this, especially when they've got family involved and so on and so forth. But we'll keep you updated if there's any more information on that up there in Marquette County. I think the big thing lesson here is you got to have an honest conversation and you got to treat it like medicine. And if you do those things there, I think your children are going to see it from a different perspective. All right, let's see if there's anything else out here on the internet I want to share with you. Anything worthwhile. This is off topic, but I got to bring it up. You guys saw the Rob Ford, Toronto's mayor. I mean, this guy blows me away. And then he comes out, now he's sick. He's got something going on, with his health, and that's too bad. But he says, I'm not going to run again. I mean, like, are you kidding me? Like, the fact that you were running in the first place after what you've done publicly, and you have the nerve to go run again. And then I think, like, John and I were just talking about having this conversation of changing how things are going to happen. And then, we vote for people like this. And that's accepted. This guy was caught smoking crack, being with prostitutes. I mean, certainly the type of character and actions that are unbecoming of a person, especially of a professional, someone that's supposed to be looked up to, someone that's supposed to be a leader in the community. And this guy here, he was running for re-election up until recently, and I think, like, shouldn't there be like a public outrage? Shouldn't there be like a backlash from some type of community that say, are you kidding me? This isn't the kind of garbage we want to have. This isn't the type of person we want to have leading us and representing us and making decisions for us. And, here we are with people like that in power. I mean, you'd think that he'd have been so embarrassed when he got caught the first time that he'd have just stepped down and let somebody responsible step in. But that didn't happen. And it just goes on. And I think, like, are you kidding? Rob Ford, wow. That guy's got some gall.
These people don't seem to have any sense of shame. They're not able to feel humiliated.
I'm thinking, John, I'm past that. I'm saying, like, we as voters, we as a community don't have any sense of shame. We're like, who cares? The guy got caught doing this and that. All the politicians do that crap, and we just go on about our day.
That's okay. I think there should be more outrage, but there isn't.
There should be,
because you always throw this in your face. Judge not, lest he be judged. Well, let's face it, if I was doing crack publicly and got busted for it, I expect to pay the price for it. I mean, duh.
And, John, I'm not saying you got to judge people or, you look down on this guy, whatever. I'm saying you have an ability, you have a duty as a citizen to get out there and vote. And as a voter, you should be able to do that, from an educated position, for one, but then as a concerned citizen as another. And I think, like, who in their right mind is going to go out there and support someone like this? It just blows me away. I think that's insane. We got to stop that kind of madness. So my resolution for this year's voting, and I might have told you this, John, but basically, if you had money to get advertised on TV or on a billboard, any kind of national way, I'm not voting for you. If you've been in office currently or before, I'm not voting for you. And maybe if we just continue to not vote for people who are, in that type of position, then we actually could get somebody new in there. But as long as we keep voting for people that, are backed up by big corporations, backed up by big money and have no accountability, well, then we're going to continue to have the type of situations that we're having right now.
No, we should have none of the above category, on the poll. I mean, I'm serious. The communists allowed that. I mean, they're none of the above. Why is that such a big, a comical thing? You bring that up to, insiders politically, they roll their eyes, say you can't do that. Why not? Why can't you do that? If people don't have any faith in either two candidates, why not have a option of opting out?
Yeah, isn't there like a vote of no confidence or something?
In some
like
countries,
that?
yeah. I mean, and that's what exactly. I mean, why the hell should we have confidence in these people who keep on putting us in, peril or do stupid crap?
It is amazing. So, all right. Well, I would just say take time if you've got a minute, whatever, between now and November. Right? Take a minute, find out who is running for the positions that you're going to be voting for, and look at some of the people that aren't in the limelight. Look at some of the folks out there that are running that you haven't heard of before, that aren't able to afford advertising. Those are the people you want to take a look at, because I guarantee you, if they were to get into office, they will actually listen. They're going to be much more intuitive to your needs than the guy who got paid by big money to sit there and do what big money tells him to do. He's going to listen to you. He's going to smile and shake your hand. But when it comes time to pull the trigger, you know where he's going. And we got to get some folks out there that really do have a personal interest in people and not just in money. So, all right. Anyways, I'll stop preaching to you. That's about it for the news this week. That's what we got going on around the country. Just a reminder again, we got the October 18th chili cook-off with the judging contest for cannabis. And also, again, this Saturday, G3C Adopt a Highway, 10 a.m. at the club. Really appreciate if you guys can show up. And it'll be a fun time. And again, we'll be serving food afterwards, so you guys get some tasty food, get fed, treated well, all that good stuff. So it'll be good times. So hopefully I'll see you guys out there. All right, that's about it for this week's show. I appreciate you guys listening and joining in. John, thanks for being in the studio this week. I appreciate it. Well, guys, catch you here next week on the Genesee County Compassion Club show and FlintTalkRadio.com. Guys, enjoy the weather, and we'll see you later.